Chicago blues bass players. That's what we're talking about today, and you're going to learn about some of the bass players that had a huge influence on the Chicago blues, the sound of the Chicago blues that made it so different than just the Mississippi Delta blues. That is actually the evolution of the blues, and that was the Chicago blues, the electric sound. It kind of went. Chicago blues is known for the electric sound because at that point in time in the 50s it started going electric. Bass became electric and amplified, and guitar was electric. So that's the Chicago blues, how it kind of got had that beginnings of the Chicago blues. Now, one of the great bassists and one of the big innovators of the Chicago blues is Willie Dixon, a upright bassist only. I'll leave a video down below. You can watch him play the upright bass, and he had a great handle on the upright bass. He could play that thing and make it just move people with his bass lines. And he also produced and wrote a lot of Chicago blues tunes back in the day. But one quote by him was, "The blues is the roots and the other musics are the fruits of the blues." And that's definitely true because the blues have influenced so much of our modern music today, and they just helped. At that point, it was just this stepping stone. The Chicago blues was just stepping and run parallel with the St. Louis blues, not the hockey team, but the music back in the 1950s, 1930s, 40s, and 50s was the evolution of these two genres. The St. Louis blues kind of run more, towards the rock and roll, and the Chicago blues, actually that became the influence behind a lot of the British blues, which we've got today, which we had back then. Because in 1961 they took a lot of these blues tunes from the Chicago blues and made those commercial, and they went internationally, and the Europeans loved the blues, as I'd spoke about the Delta blues and the Rolling Stones and all of those guys redoing a lot of those original Delta blues players. But the same thing in the 1960s, that's when it went mainstream, and RCA Records, Columbia Records, and a couple other record companies started producing these and usually commercially sending them out, and they went international. But the beginnings of the Chicago blues was back in the Maxwell Street of Chicago, where a lot of these blues were played in the street of Maxwell Streets, and that was kind of like the path to getting to the clubs. You had to play the streets, you had to play Maxwell Street, the open air markets they had down there, and a lot of musicians just playing which they were street musicians then, but they played the street music, and then they moved as they got better, and if they were able to get better and they had the mindset, they moved up to the clubs and started making money in their music. But this street music was giving the Delta, which took the Delta blues, because a lot of these men and women had migrated to Chicago as the industrial city to make a better living for themselves, and they went to the streets and they gave the Delta blues new blood, and that's what it needed. It needed something new at this time to help grow it, which they were just playing music because they loved it, and like I said, they could move from the streets, they played it, and then the good ones were able to move up to the clubs and make money at it, and just make a career out of it. One album you need to check out is Willie Dixon's Ginger Ale Afternoon. He wrote the music to it and everything, but it's the electric version. It's electric, so it's Cash McCall playing bass on it. It's not Willie Dixon. He might be singing in there or playing some other instrument, but he wrote those songs. So check those out also. And it's Cash McCall on bass, and great bass lines too to learn some. And if you want, leave me a comment down below if there's a particular song off that album that you've listened to. Let me know. I'll be glad to help you out, figure it out, and break it down for you. So leave me a comment down below if you'd like that. But another great bass player of the Chicago blues, it was kind of after Chicago blues started spreading out, and this bassist took it to another level, and it was just great stuff. A huge influence on a lot of modern bass players, and even the 70s bass players, Jocko, and a lot of those guys. Just this blues player was just amazing, and it's Jack Bruce. You need to check out a lot of his stuff. He was just phenomenal. He started out on the upright bass, and even I'll leave a video down below of him playing the upright bass when he was younger, just trying to make some money to make a living at it, and that's Jack Bruce. But he eventually ventured into writing his own music and the electric bass, and became popular with Cream. And as I've mentioned, Cream was influenced largely by the Delta Blues, those guys, and they've actually redid a lot of the Delta Blues songs. But the one that a great blues song that they've done, I mean, he's got a lot of blues songs out there, but one that moved me a lot is the Kelly Blues, and just a sad story, and just one that's a good and moving song. So check that one out also. Great singer, great voice, just great blues player, and his influence was all Delta Blues, and then he just took it to another level. Once the electric bass came around, they just, that's kind of, Chicago Blues is part of that, but they also ventured out, and a lot of the British blues influenced a lot of today's music, so it kind of a circle. It just all works out like that. So that's a little bit about the Chicago Blues. The biggest thing about Chicago Blues is how it evolved from Maxwell Street, which is notorious for the Chicago Blues. If you ever are in Chicago or live there, check out Maxwell Street. Maxwell Street is the foundation of the Chicago Blues, and it all started there, and playing in the streets, and then moving up to the clubs, and then signing with recording labels, with record companies, signing with record companies and recording, and then just the sky's the limit from there. So that is it. So definitely check out Cali Blues, and if you want me to break that down, I'll be glad to. Leave me a comment. Be glad to break it down. Great bass line. Every bass line Jack Bruce had was just phenomenal. So he's definitely somebody that's been kind of, less recognized, that deserves a lot of recognition. And I mean, he got his recognition, but he deserves a lot more than kind of what's out there. I mean, top basses, he is one of the tops up there, and he's influenced some of the biggest basses. I mean, to influence Jocko, that is, that's impressive right there. I mean, Jocko's probably the top bassist that could just manhandle this thing in a phenomenal way, and just took the bass to the next level, and just such an innovator as well. To be influencing Jocko is something in itself. So that was Jack Bruce, and check him out. And like I said, if you've got a song you want to learn of Jack Bruce's and you're struggling with it, leave me a comment. I'll be glad to help, and I'll get that out there for you. So hope you got some value out of this. The Chicago Blues, a great thing that's, just something to be known about, just how things worked out, and how it got us to where we're at today. So help me help you. Hit that like button, and I'll catch you all on the flip flop in the next video. Bye for now.